Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, I'll be talking about the new matchmaking that has been added into World of Tanks Blitz. The other day, I made a video after playing about 40 games in my Foch, going 52% in those battles, and struggling my absolute life off to try and just get wins and average damage. And after playing those games and getting a general idea of how the matchmaker works, I stated my opinions, which I, by the way, still strongly agree with. Everything I said in that video, I still fully 100% support, and I don't take anything back. The matchmaker that Wargaming has released, this skill-based matchmaker, is possibly the worst thing they've ever done for World of Tanks Blitz, and that's impressive. They had AGTMs, which they removed after a year, and they had spare parts, which was also terrible. Update 5.5 was bad for the game. However, I am quite confident to say that the skill-based matchmaker is the worst update that they have put into the game, and it is definitely going to spearhead the demise of World of Tanks Blitz if they do not remove it. Now, a lot of people voiced their opinions and how they felt about the matchmaker. One of the comments that I made during my previous video talking about the matchmaker is now I actually have to try a lot harder to win battles. And some of the people took that comment, absolutely misunderstood the point of it, and then used it as an excuse to why this matchmaker is good for the game. For example, a lot of people took that comment and said, "Oh, boo-hoo, instead of farming 40%ers, you now actually have to try and fight even skilled players and do well, when you weren't trying before." When that's completely wrong. Imagine saying that I didn't try previously. No. It doesn't just magically happen that players like myself and other skilled players like Fatness achieve 70+% win rates over their 30-day period. The thing I find funny about people making these types of comments is they're obviously not skilled at the game. Because if you were, you would instantly know why skill-based matchmaking and the way Wargaming has designed the current matchmaker is absolutely awful for the balance of the game. It's actually terrible. And let me explain why, really briefly, right? So the way the matchmaker works is it ranks people on win rate percentage. So let's say that my team's win rate averages out to be 54%. Well, the way the matchmaker is going to work is it is going to make the enemy team's win rate average to be 54%. On paper, you say, oh, look, that's a pretty fair battle. Here's the problem. My win rate is 67%. The rest of my team's win rate might be 40%. Because when you average those two numbers together, it's going to be 54% win rate. The enemy team might not have a 67% career player, but what they will have is 5 55%ers and maybe 2 or 1 40%er. And even though I do have a much higher win rate than a lot of the players on the enemy team, I, as a singular player, am not able to recoup for the rest of my team's inadequacies. And that is what we are currently getting. The way the skill-based matchmaker is working is it is essentially giving skilled players, the higher the win rate you are, the worse teams you can get. That's how the matchmaker is working. So if you have a high win rate, you are going to have worse players on your team than the enemy team is statistically. Essentially, the game is trying to cause you to lose. And that's as simple as it is. You can see me here killing an enemy girl 15. Full health, absolutely out of the fight. And then if we skip ahead, a T110E4 is going to go out of his way to try and kill me. This is 2 tier 10s that I'm going to single-handedly kill in my TVP. I got HE'd, but that's alright. I get 1, I get 2, I get 3, and 4. Yep, that's right. I just did max damage to 2 tier 10s. So I single-handedly took 2 vehicles out of the game. What more could I have done in this game? You know, there were people commenting the other day, oh, well, you should just get better. If you're fighting more skilled players, then you should just put in more effort and you'll win the games. Yeah, okay. What am I supposed to do in this battle? I flanked the tank destroyers in a clipper, which is what you're supposed to do. I distracted the tank destroyers, and in that amount of time, my team has absolutely lost the other flank because I have a camping E100. What do you want me to do? I'm going to kill the enemy BZ-75, and at this point, I'm going to reload my clip and bail. I got a VK-72 and Kron in mid, but obviously it's not going to matter, as they get absolutely flanked and killed. At this point, I'm going to try and leave. We're going to see that the enemy TVP gets spotted up top on the ridge here, and good ol' RNG is going to absolutely screw me out of a win. Easy shot right on his hull, goes into his track, and because of that, the TVP on their team is going to kill me. Unfortunate. Literally, if RNG didn't screw me there, I easily would have been able to finish off that player. But as we can see, because we have a camping E100, we lose the battle. Let's take a look at the team's players, right? You can see I was not very happy with the emojis that Wargaming has given us here. All right, so let's take a look. I have a 42% win rate player who averages 420 damage. Okay. I have an Object 268 who averages 900 damage, 43% win rate. I have an E100, 46% win rate, averages 1200 damage. That was the player who camped. I have a VK-72 with 58% win rate. I have a Leopard 1 with 52% win rate. And I have a Kron with 60%. So my team has 3 absolutely awful players and 3 decent players. And then you take a look at the enemy team. And they have a 56%er. And they have a 63%er. And they have a 50%er. And they have a 51%er. And they have a 53%er. And we'll wait for this one to load. 54% player. And a 50%er. So their team, even though the win rates even out to be about the same, I pulled out the calculator and did the math, and my team's win rate on average was 52%. Their team's win rate on average was 53%. Why was my team's win rate so close to theirs? Because I have a 70 almost percent win rate. So when you add mine in there, it evens out the teams. Do you understand how this is awful for the game? Essentially what's happening here is the game is forcing me to have worse players on my team because I am personally a more skilled player. How am I supposed to carry games when I have 3 people on my team dealing a combined of 1200 damage? It doesn't matter what you do when the enemy team has also skilled players who are going to deal 4000 damage, 3700. There's only so much you can do as a skilled player. Now, I'm not mad at people for voicing their opinions on how this matchmaker works, but you can't possibly sit there and act like this is good for the game. First of all, this is screwing the low win rate players because it's forcing the low win rate players to be on teams with high win rate players. So both the low win rate and high win rate people are constantly getting in the worst matches. It's really bad for the game. And the worst part about it is that the game is only basing the win rate of your career stats. So what that means is that for as long as I play the game, I'm going to be constantly placed in battles that are going to try and cause me to lose. If you are above 60% win rate, above 50% win rate, the game is trying to lower your win rate to 50%. And if you are below 50% win rate, it is trying to higher it to 50%. That is the way the matchmaker works. Essentially, any game you play is a toss-up. So, let's take a look at some of the other battles I played today. I played 15 games, I went 60% win rate, and averaged 3,700 average damage. I don't know what more people want me to do. I mean, that's the same average damage as his Royal Fatness. That's about as high as you'll find on any server in the game. And then I'm only winning 60% of the battles. And 60% might sound high to some people, but judging that my 30-day is 75%, that is 15% lower than what I normally go. So let's take a look at some of these other games here. We just took a look at our TVP battle. How about we take a look at some of our other games? How about this BZ-75 game I played on Nube earlier? Let's take a look at this game and see what exactly I could have done. By the way, take close attention to my T110E4, #1 bad player. We'll see how me as a skilled player is supposed to make up for a literal 6 versus 7. So I'm going to start off this game by crossing over towards base C. I see that there's somebody else in base C, and I'm obviously going to try and take advantage of that. I'm not spotted in my BZ. I'm going to wait a teeny bit for my gun to aim in after the bloom has calmed down, and boom, 852 damage into the enemy Kron. In that amount of time, my Foch has bled 1,200 hit points. We're going to reload. We've got our adrenaline on. At this point, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here. I'm kind of hoping that my team doesn't back off and they support me. So we're going to aim it on the Concept 1B. We're going to aim it on his Lord Plate, 804 damage. 2 shots fired, 1,650 damage dealt. Watch our Foch. Look at him go. Dude is just going to fully YOLO into the open. We get a 2,000 damage ammo rack. Remember that. 2,000 HP ammo rack. We're still going to lose this game. I get a shell into the Kron. I bleed a bit of health, but it's alright. We've dealt 2,400 damage. I have fired at every single possible moment I could have in this game. I have penned every single Hess shell I could have in this battle. So, let's keep going. I'm going to reload again. I've got the side of the minnow. He's not looking at me right now. I see the concept's not looking at me, so I'm going to push to the side of the minnow. That's worth it. I'll bleed 370 health to deal an additional 700. We are at 3,200 damage. In less than 2 minutes, I've dealt 3,200 damage. And yet, we are down 2 tier 10s in the process. So, we're going to reload again. I've decided that poking that spot is probably not going to be a viable solution anymore, judging that I've bled them so much. So instead, we're going to aim it on the VK90. I'm going to get a pen into his turret. We're up to 3,800 damage dealt at this point. Alright, well, let's reload again. Let's see if we can get some more damage out. We got the minnow, we got the VK90 still in front of us. I'm going to turn and try and help out our Super Conqueror at this point. Dude's not very healthy, and he bled a lot to get into this position. So we're going to wait here, and we're going to see what this VK90 does. Currently, I see that his turret is a little bit turned, but he's kind of looking at us. I'm just patiently waiting. Don't worry, though. While this is going on, our E50M is currently in a position where he's going to lose the medium flank. We can see the VK90 is not looking at me, so I'm going to load a Hess shell into the side of his turret, and we've dealt 4,500 damage. Does it matter? No. Our Super Conqueror gets cleared because he backs into the open for some reason instead of holding the spot in front of me. Now I'm in a position where I've got a VK90 and Concept, and if I back up, I've also got a Yag on my rear. So, my tank's too low down. Oh yeah, I also have the Kron shooting me now. So, either I have the option of getting shot by the Kron, backing up and getting hit by the Yag, backing up and getting hit by the Minnow, or pulling forwards and dealing with the Concept 1B and VK90. This was definitely a winnable battle, and my skill played a huge role into the changes of this game. Tried to get a shell into the Concept, but it didn't matter. I did 4,500 damage, and this is our T110E4. This is not an AFK player. This is an actual player in this battle sitting in our spawn. Yes, you heard that right. It was a 6 versus 7 from the start of the game. And once again, this is how the current matchmaker works. Look at my team's damage and look at their team's damage. They had a 4,000, 2,500, 2,500, 2,000, 1,700, 1,700. 6 out of the 7 players on their team did just about 2,000 and above. My team, 300, 700, 800, 900, 1,200. The literal 5 people on my team did worse than a singular player second worst on their team. Like, seriously, I would like somebody in the comment section to explain to me what I am supposed to do in these games. I have one more game to showcase here, and this is the T62A game I actually made a video on earlier today. This T62A game, I started off with a T54E1 stock, no camo. So that's already an instant L. That's just great. The enemy team gets a standard B, an M60, and an FE4202. So already, medium side is screwed. There's nothing I can do about it. So I'm going to head over towards heavy side. And I'm going to get some bleeds out. We get a shell into the 100 once. I'm aiming on his turret weak spot. We get a second shell out. I'm trying to make as quick time as I can over here. I get a shell into the standard B. I'm going to push off to the side of the 100, get a shell into him, bleed a little bit of health, but it's alright. I've dealt 2,000 damage at this point. I've cleared the enemy 100. Oh, and it's a 3 versus 6. Yeah. Did you notice that? In the amount of time that it took me to deal 2,000 damage, which was just about 2 minutes of shooting, and the game's over, just like that. So we're going to get over to the grill. We're going to aim in an HE shell into his tank. At this point, I decided, yeah, I basically need to take a shot from this grill. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take a shell from the grill. I was hoping you'd bounce me, but okay, that's not the end of the world. We're going to aim in one more shell on his tank. Here we go, and bye-bye. Okay, so now we're going to head over towards the IS-4, the FE4202. We'll see if we can get some damage out. It's a 5 versus 3. I'm quite unhealthy. We're going to aim it on the IS-4. Ah, yeah, you know, just penned right through the turret. And then we get shot in the rear by the K91. I did 3,700 damage in this battle because I blind fired an opponent, and who would have guessed? It was another loss. Again, I seriously would like somebody to explain to me in the comments how this matchmaker is fair and how I'm supposed to be able to win these games thrown at me. I had a T54E1 who did 0 damage, who averages 851 damage a battle. That was my medium, and they got 2 tier 10 mediums and a tier 9. Now, to be fair, their tier 10 medium did not do very well, but he was still a 60% player. I just don't personally understand what I am supposed to do in these games. I'm just very confused. We can take a look at another game here. Let's take a look at this Middleburg battle. Please, again, explain to me how I'm supposed to win these battles. So we're going to roll into the front line here. I make a bit of a bad play. I bleed a bit of health. To be fair, I bleed about the same that I deal, but it definitely wasn't a perfect situation. So we got some damage into the M48 Patton, and we're going to reload here. So at this point, we can see the IS-4 is getting aggressive, the STB-1's hull down. I should point out, while this is going on, I have 2 players in town, and my 268 is just deciding to move up now. We got the Super Conqueror in the back. My shell, unfortunately, misses the side of his turret. We're going to aim in on the IS-4. There you go. We got 1 pendant to the IS-4 for 290. Can't do anything else to his vehicle. So already, we are in a situation where both sides of the map are not going all too well for us. I was going to try and HE the Patton, but it's fine. We still do all right. We get 950 damage out. Let's just skip ahead a bit. So, our E100 has decided to go all the way from town, YOLO into the enemy E183. He's dead. Our 113 GFT is still in spawn. Even though this Object 140 is going to make an absolutely awful play, sit in front of the enemy, and we're gonna clear him here. We're gonna get a full clip out. 2,092 damage dealt. What am I supposed to do? I mean, seriously, what am I supposed to do in this engagement? The enemy Foch is going to YOLO in and kill himself. And you might think, oh, it's a pretty close game. It's a 5 versus 5. We're going to get a clear. Look at that. It's pretty close right now. Yeah, okay. Well, we get hit by the IS-4. Unfortunate. And then our shell dunks into the ground. We're going to reload at this point. I can't do anything to the IS-4, and the Leopard pushes me into the open, which is really, really disappointing. But we're okay. We're okay. So now at this point, we got all of our team boxed in the one area. Our Leopard 1 is dead. The IS-4 is going to push, and obviously the IS-4 is going to tunnel me. At this point, I have to back up. The STB is going to shoot me in the rear, and there's nothing I can do about it. What an absolutely fun and engaging battle I had here, and I definitely could do a lot about it. Our 113 GFT is in town, getting outmaneuvered by a Super Conqueror. So, let's again take a look at the post-game results and see just how close of a battle this was. Their team, 4,500 damage, 3,000 damage, 3,000 damage. That's their top performers. And I should point out that this guy is a 58%er, this player is a 66%er, and this player is a 71%er. We keep on going down, 50% win rate, 58% win rate, so that's 4 60%ers essentially on their team. They have a 50%er, and there you go, one bad player at 45% win rate. We have a 40% win rate Super Conqueror. Yep, 700 average damage. We have a Sheridan who averages 1,600. All right, 57% player. We have a 60% player. Oh, there you go. 900 average damage player in the Leopard 1. 47% win rate. And then we got the 113 GFT who went town, and we have an Object 268. Oh yeah, again, another 40% player. Do you see the difference here? Do you see what's happening? The matchmaker is literally just screwing us. And it's to a point where I have talked to many players who are quitting the game. So, sure. If you're a player who averages about 50% win rate, the matchmaker is probably not going to affect you. But if you ever plan on getting better at the game, the matchmaker is going to absolutely screw you. Because the room for getting better, the matchmaker is constantly going to be urging you to do worse and worse in the game. It is incredibly disappointing, and especially the way Wargaming has designed the matchmaker, essentially players like myself who have high win rates with a ridiculous amount of games are constantly going to be screwed for the rest of ever. It's incredible. I literally had to try hard my butt off today to achieve just a 60% win rate. Flossie is going currently 40% win rate for about 20 games played in Tier 10. One of my other friends is going 35% win rate in Tier 10 with about 3,200 average damage. Yeah, it's over. Like, skilled players are going to be leaving this game. And I don't think Wargaming is going to revert the matchmaker, to be honest. I really don't think it's going to happen. Because eventually the skilled players are just going to stop complaining. They're going to quit the game. And World of Tank Splits is going to be filled with mediocrity. As I said, I don't work for Wargaming, and I don't choose what happens to the game. And everybody is free to share their opinions. You can disagree with what I've said here. You can argue that, oh, it's fair that 60%ers constantly fight 60%ers. But I'll say this to finish off today's video. You, as a 50 or 40% player, have the equal capabilities that I do as a player to do well. You had 5,000 battles in a noob matchmaker, which Wargaming confirmed. If you're going to sit there and say, oh, the noob matchmaker doesn't exist, you're wrong. Wargaming literally confirmed it in their video when they announced they were changing the matchmaker. So the noob matchmaker does exist. And you had 5,000 battles to learn how to play the game, to learn how to get better. 5,000 battles is 400 hours of playtime. I have games like Risk of Rain 2, Back 4 Blood, Left 4 Dead, Satisfactory that I have put less than 400 hours in, and I would say I am an expert at those games. In fact, Back 4 Blood, I'm one of the top ranking players in the game. And yet, in Blitz, 400 hours, you can't learn how to play a tank properly? Like, really? That just doesn't really add up to me. Anybody can pull out a BZ75. Anybody can pull out a 113, and they can do what I have done, which is 70% win rate in this vehicle with 3,100 average damage. You can do the exact same things I am. I do not have any advantages as a player over you, and yet I'm getting punished for learning how to do the positions properly, for learning how to play my tank to the utmost capabilities. I am being punished. That does not make sense. Ratings exist for a reason, and there's a reason why ratings do not have stats, and it's very simple. It's because of the fact that ratings are there to try and show your skill, but Wargaming obviously knew that the stats aren't the most best thing to use for ratings, but Wargaming said, you know what? Let's copy and paste ratings and put it in pubs. This will be the last video that I will talk about the matchmaker, but I needed to make sure that I got all of my points across, spread across the table. A, if you think that skilled players in the previous matchmaker were not putting in effort, you're wrong. The amount of effort that skilled players had to put in to win games is insane. And the fact that 50% players are going to judge what skilled players are doing is insane. I mean, it's actually insane. The second thing to say is this matchmaker is not good for the game. If you're a skilled player, you're getting screwed. And even if you're a low win rate player, you're still getting screwed because you're never going to get better. It's just going to keep you at 50% for the rest of your games. Nobody wants that. There is no room for growth anymore in the game. So I guess we'll have to see what Wargaming does. Hopefully they revert their decision, but I don't think it's going to happen. For the future of content I post on this channel, I will be playing in ratings until they change the matchmaker. I will not be dropping my stats in pubs and ruining what I've spent years building because Wargaming wants to say screw you to the skilled player base. So I will be playing in ratings for the majority of my videos I make, and that's kind of how it's going to be. So I don't know what else to say. I'll see you in the next one. Let me know in the comments what you think. Bye-bye.